Title: The Ridgeway Vanishings, the disturbing school that hid a dark secret, the night of the vanishing. Ridgeway, Pennsylvania was the kind of town that looked frozen in time. Everyone knew everyone, and Friday night football was the heartbeat of the community. On October 16, 2009, the Ridgeway Eagles had just won their homecoming game. The crowds cheered, the band played, and as the lights dimmed, 3 high school seniors made a decision that would haunt the town forever. Their names were Brandon Ellis, Lisa Hart, and Miguel Torres. They weren't bad kids, not even close. They were friends, creative, curious, and obsessed with the idea of chasing something extraordinary. Together, they ran a small YouTube channel where they filmed ghost hunts and urban legends around their sleepy town. The videos were never serious, just fun. But that night, they wanted something real. After the game, when most students were at parties or heading home, Brandon sent a text to the group chat. It said, "Let's go inside Ridgeway. Just for 10 minutes. His mother worked in the school's office, and he knew one of the side doors near the gym didn't lock properly. The school was empty, the night was quiet, and they thought it would make the perfect ghost video. None of them knew it would be their last. They met behind the gym a little after midnight. The temperature had dropped, and the sky was overcast, leaving the parking lot darker than usual. They brought a single flashlight, a handheld camera, and Brandon's phone to record everything. The footage begins at 12:17 a.m. It shows the 3 of them laughing, whispering, daring each other to go inside. For the first few minutes, it's typical teenage energy. Muffled laughter, nervous jokes, echoing footsteps down the hallway. Then, somewhere around the 10-minute mark, something changes. The laughter stops. The camera captures a strange sound, something like metal scraping against concrete. It's distant at first, but distinct. They pause. The sound comes again, louder this time, like something heavy being dragged across the floor. They whisper to each other, but the words are impossible to make out. The noise seems to come from beneath them, from somewhere under the gym. Ridgeway High wasn't supposed to have a basement. At least not anymore. Records showed that when the school was remodeled in the 90s, all lower levels were sealed off. But on the video, Brandon says something that chills the blood even now. He says, "It's coming from under us." What happens next is chaos. There's a sudden bang. Lisa screams. The camera spins, and all that's visible is a blur of walls, lockers, and light streaks. The recording becomes erratic. Breathing fills the microphone. Someone whispers, "There's someone here." Then, everything goes silent, until a faint humming begins. A woman's voice, soft and distant, singing an old tune. The picture flickers and the footage cuts to black. That was the last anyone heard from them. On Monday morning, a janitor found Brandon's phone wedged beneath a locker near the gym. It was still recording, still warm to the touch. He turned it into the front office, not realizing what he was holding. When investigators reviewed the file, they found 4 hours of corrupted data, with only 2 minutes of viewable footage at the end. Those 2 minutes have become one of the most disturbing pieces of evidence in any local missing persons case. The video begins in near total darkness, except for the faint beam of a flashlight. Heavy breathing can be heard. Then, the camera slowly pans toward the mural of Ridgeway's eagle mascot painted on the wall. For a moment, nothing moves. Then something tall and motionless appears at the edge of the frame. Investigators still can't agree on what it is. Some say it's just a trick of the light, a reflection or smudge. Others swear it's a figure, tall, narrow, almost human-shaped but not quite right. The outline is wrong. The proportions are unnatural. In the final seconds before the video cuts out, there's a burst of static, and the image distorts. Then silence. No one ever saw Brandon, Lisa, or Miguel again. The police searched the entire building. They brought in dogs, heat sensors, and ground scanners. Nothing was found. No blood. No struggle. No trace that anyone had ever been inside that night. It was as if they'd simply vanished into thin air. As the days passed, rumors spread. Some said the 3 of them had run away, though no one could explain why they left their wallets, their cars, and their phones behind. Others whispered about the school itself, claiming that years ago there used to be tunnels beneath the gym. The official records denied it. But older staff members remembered things differently. One retired teacher told a reporter that when the school was first built, there had been a small basement level used for storage. During a renovation in the early 90s, the area was sealed and covered in concrete. After that, no one ever spoke of it again. But the details matched what the students had described on their video. The sound of metal scraping. The echo from beneath the floor. Detectives requested the original building plans from the district archives, hoping to verify the existence of a basement. When they arrived, they found something strange. The earliest blueprints listed a sublevel beneath the gym labeled Behavioral Studies. Later versions of the same plans had that section erased, replaced with solid concrete. It was as if someone had deliberately tried to remove it from record. When reporters asked school administrators about it, they claimed it was an old clerical error, nothing more. But people who'd lived in Westbridge their whole lives remembered the rumors from decades earlier. Rumors about a teacher who'd been quietly dismissed, a basement classroom, and students who'd transferred under suspicious circumstances. The town had buried those stories years ago. The missing Ridgeway seniors brought them all back. Months passed. The investigation slowed. Search teams combed the woods, drained nearby ponds, and even opened a few sealed crawlspaces under the school, but nothing was ever found. Eventually, the case went cold. The families held memorials without bodies to bury. The school replaced its locks. Life moved on. But not for everyone. Some people in town swore they still saw strange lights inside Ridgeway at night. Others said they heard humming coming from the gym, especially when the wind picked up. One man, the janitor who found the phone, said he stopped going near that hallway entirely. He told his wife, "It's never quiet there. You think it is, but it isn't." For 10 years, the mystery remained unsolved. The footage from Brandon's phone circulated online, sparking endless theories. Most dismissed it as an elaborate prank, a hoax gone too far. But others believed the students had discovered something real, something the school wanted kept hidden. Then, in 2019, Ridgeway High was finally scheduled for renovation. A construction crew began tearing up the gym floor. Beneath layers of tile and concrete, they uncovered a rusted metal panel bolted shut. Behind it was a narrow staircase leading down into darkness. What they found at the bottom would open a new chapter in Westbridge's nightmare, and reveal that the disappearances of 2009 were only the latest in a much longer, much darker history. The tapes beneath the school. When construction crews began renovating Ridgeway High in the summer of 2019, no one expected to reopen an old wound. The building had been closed for months because of asbestos concerns, and workers were tasked with tearing up the gym floor to install new piping. But on the third day of the project, one of the workers' drills hit something metallic under the concrete. What they uncovered would reignite the mystery of the 3 missing seniors and reveal a history far older than anyone imagined. Beneath nearly 8 inches of solid concrete was a sealed metal panel about 3 feet wide. The bolts were rusted over, the hinges fused with age. It took almost an hour to pry it open. Below it, a narrow staircase led downward into darkness. The air that came out smelled of mold and old paper. None of the crew wanted to go down, but their foreman did, flashlight in hand. What he found at the bottom were several decaying cardboard boxes stacked against a wall. The labels were written in thick black marker, RHS Storage 1991. The boxes were turned over to the district office. Inside, inspectors found old textbooks, broken recorders, and a collection of 6 VHS tapes, each in its own sleeve. The tapes were covered in dust but still legible. They were dated between 1988 and 1992, and each one carried a single line written in pen, Behavioral Studies, Room B7. No one at the district had ever heard of a Room B7. In every version of Ridgeway's official floor plans, the lowest level was listed as sealed. There were no basements, no subrooms, nothing beneath the gym. But now, evidence suggested otherwise. The police reopened the investigation immediately. The tapes were sent to the state crime lab for restoration. Over 30 years of decay had nearly destroyed them, but forensic technicians managed to recover enough footage to piece together what they contained. Each tape showed a single student sitting alone at a desk in a small, windowless room. The lighting was harsh. The walls were bare concrete. A single camera, mounted high on the wall, recorded everything. There were no clocks, no sound except the faint hum of fluorescent bulbs. The students appeared nervous, sometimes frightened. They spoke to someone off camera, an adult woman whose voice was calm but firm. She asked questions about behavior, punishment, and obedience. The students' responses were quiet, almost submissive. Then, near the end of each tape, the lights would flicker. The students' faces would go blank. And in every video, a faint humming began, soft, rhythmic, the same melody heard in the phone footage from 2009. The recordings would distort after that point, the sound warping into static before the screen turned black. When investigators cross-checked the names written on the tapes against missing persons records, the discovery was horrifying. Every student shown had disappeared from Ridgeway High between 1988 and 1993. Some were never officially reported missing because their families moved away or were told their children had transferred schools. Others had cases that quietly went cold. None had ever been found. The woman's voice on the tapes was identified as belonging to Ilara Vaughn, a behavioral therapist employed by the district during that same period. Her file described her as a specialist in experimental correctional methods for adolescent behavioral management. Colleagues remembered her as intelligent, polite, and deeply private. She left Ridgeway in 1994 after the death of her husband, who had worked as a guidance counselor at the same school. 2 weeks after her resignation, she disappeared. There was no forwarding address, no contact with family, no trace at all. Detectives began searching for surviving staff who might have known her. Some spoke off the record, claiming that Mrs. Vaughn had been involved in a controversial program designed to deal with troubled students, children who had behavioral issues or were caught in fights or vandalism. They were reportedly sent to a small counseling room under the gym, away from classrooms and offices. The sessions were meant to be private. One teacher remembered seeing a service elevator that led down to a space she called the lower wing, but after 1993, it was welded shut and never mentioned again. The revelation sparked panic in Westbridge. Local news outlets revived the story of the missing seniors. People began to wonder if Brandon, Lisa, and Miguel had somehow stumbled upon the same hidden area decades later, the one linked to Vaughn's secret sessions. Online forums dissected every frame of the tapes, looking for clues. Some claimed to see writing on the walls behind the students, shapes drawn in chalk, symbols that didn't belong in any classroom. Whether it was imagination or something real, the speculation only fueled the fear. Police returned to Ridgeway High and began excavating beneath the gym floor. What they found matched the camera angles seen on the tapes. A small, square room, long sealed off, its walls lined with peeling white paint. In one corner stood a single metal chair bolted to the floor. The ceiling showed evidence of wiring, possibly where a camera had once been mounted. There was no sign of human remains, but traces of dried biological material were taken for analysis. The forensics report would later confirm human DNA, though too degraded to identify. The room's number plate had fallen onto the floor, almost hidden under debris. It read, B7. During the investigation, one of the detectives, Carla Jensen, found something carved behind locker 132, the same locker where Brandon's phone had been discovered 10 years earlier. Scratched into the metal were the words, "Ilara was here." The engraving had been painted over several times, but the letters were still visible under infrared light. To police, it was more than coincidence, it was connection. By now, the story had drawn national attention. Documentaries, podcasts, and conspiracy channels all tried to explain what happened at Ridgeway High. Some insisted Vaughn was conducting psychological experiments gone wrong. Others believed she'd been practicing occult rituals disguised as therapy. Officially, the district blamed poor record-keeping and misinterpretation of archival material, denying any knowledge of secret programs. But in Westbridge, no one believed them. As weeks turned into months, the investigation stalled again. There were no living witnesses who could testify to what happened in room B7. Most of the staff from that era had retired, moved away, or refused to speak. Only one man, a retired custodian named Harold Brooks, eventually broke the silence. He had worked at Ridgeway from 1987 until his retirement in 2001. When police contacted him, he hesitated before agreeing to talk. He said there were things about the school's basement he had never told anyone, things that had kept him awake at night for 30 years. Brooks's testimony would later form the backbone of the third and final chapter of the Ridgeway investigation. He claimed that Mrs. Vaughn had not been running a counseling program at all, but something else, something that blurred the line between science and ritual. He described sounds under the gym, strange requests for maintenance, and nights when he heard voices calling his name from below the floorboards. What he revealed next would shake the investigation to its core. Because according to Harold Brooks, Room B7 had never been closed. It had simply been buried,